15th August 1948, the government of the Republic of Korea was established. Unlike other newly independent states, South Korea chose the free market, liberal democratic system. Thus, it was able to enjoy the benefits of easy access to advanced Western civilization and technology. Through division and war, South Korea had been reliant on foreign aid. The governments of Seungman Rhee and Jang Myeon both formulated economic plans to achieve economic self-sufficiency.
우리의 적은 빈곤과 부정부패와 공산주의입니다. 나는 이것을 우리의 3대 공적으로 생각합니다.
In 1962, the new military government sets out an economic plan. The plan envisioned an annual growth rate of 7.1%, given the lack of investment funds. This high investment, high growth plan was unrealistic. But there was another way. From 1962, exports of industrial goods, principally tinned iron, plywood, and apparel, began to rise. The business world had taken the lead, and in 1964, the government promoted exports as a national priority. Export-led industrialization was strategy without precedent in the industrialization of other undeveloped countries. Amid rapid global economic growth, South Korea's decision to adapt an export-led growth model in the mid-1960s turned out to be the right one. Exports rose rapidly every year at a staggering rate of 40% on average. In 1970, apparel formed 40% of total exports, the #1 export product. Plywood was the #2 export product. Wigs were the 3rd largest export. Thus, to start with, South Korean exports were not all that impressive. But beginning with simple, light industrial goods and gradually moving up the value chain proved to be the right way to industrialize. The export of light industrial products was possible thanks to cheap and abundant labor. However, poor labor conditions were to become a big social issue. In 1970, a young worker burnt himself to death in protest at the lack of enforcement of the Labor Standards Act. However, with industrialization, wages were rapidly rising. From here on in, Korea's ascent out of poverty became more rapid. The expansion of export of light industrial goods brought development in other related industries, with increasing apparel exports. Chemical fiber industry in the form of nylon, polyester, and acrylic developed, with young female labor, and electronics industry centered on spare parts assembly also developed. From the 1970s, South Korea's main export were heavy and chemical industrial products. Electronics, iron and steel, and ships became major exports. Then cars and petrochemicals followed. In such a way, South Korean exports became increasingly high value-added. Additionally, in the 1970s, Korean construction companies began entering the foreign construction market. With oil shock of late 1973, the massive Middle East construction market opened up, and many construction companies began winning contracts to build roads, ports, and industrial facilities. The hard work and sweat of Korean workers and businessmen in the hot, sandy winds of the Arabian Desert became a powerful motive force in the rise of the Korean economy in the 1970s. With the rise in exports, the Korean economy achieved external balance. With 3 lows, low dollar exchange rates, low interest rates, and low oil prices in the late 1980s, Korean heavy and chemical industrial exports rose rapidly. Thus began what became known as the boom of the 3 lows. South Korea ended its chronic trade deficit, becoming economically self-reliant. The Republic of Korea had nothing to offer but people. In the early stages, the country developed expertise in producing simple processed goods. Later, it was able to make goods that required more skilled labor and sophisticated technology. A virtuous circle of rising exports, investment, and consumption resulted in the fastest economic growth rates in the world at the time. The export-led industrialization strategy resulted in South Korea becoming part of the global economic system. Korean business, by continuing to improve the quality of their operations, can continue to modernize the Korean economy.